Okay, ladies and gentlemen,
Amazing. It's 7:20 that we are in the meeting. First item on the agenda today is can I please request all mobile phones and people to be silent or switched off. It just is a bit annoying sometimes on the meeting. Hopefully the unlikely event of a fire, we leave this building, those are here, and here, and then we leave at the car park, the furthest point, which I think we all say. Now, recording and filming of this meeting, the council permits the filming and recording and photography of its public meetings. By attending the meeting, you are consenting to being filmed and recorded unless you notify the board in advance that you do not wish to be. All present, can I please ask if anyone was intending to make a separate recording of that of today's meeting? Thank you. The recording of this.
that's a question.
Yes.
I wouldn't mind to record it, but is it okay if I actually not get recorded? Sorry.
That. It's
We do that.
specifically difficult to speak because it is public meeting of the government.
Yes, probably. That's fine, that's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
So now the apologies for absence, declarations of leases, dispensations. On the agenda, it says there is a standing dispensation in regards to PCO 1 for 2025. Do we have apologies for absence?
We do. We have apologies from councillor Ervin and councillor Lee.
Okay. Do we have any declarations of interest from members?
Yes,
Okay.
it's been recorded.
Is that being recorded?
Husband's on the payment.
Okay. All right, so now we are moving to approve the minutes from the meeting held on the 12th of April. And I'll be going very slow. Did everyone see the minutes from the last meeting? Okay. Do we all agree with page 1? Okay.
Yeah.
Page 2. Page 3. And there is page 4. And I have a question for my fellow councillors. Yes, please.
Through Chair, I made a mistake in the declaration of interest, does it matter? I made a mistake, I didn't have interest in the project.
So you did.
It's better this way.
It's better to
Better.
stay.
Yeah,
Better to.
that's what I'm just saying, when I said I didn't abstain, I actually didn't abstain on the vote, but I thought I had an interest in. You see what I mean?
Oh, okay.
It's my mistake.
Okay.
I looked at the address, I thought it was actually my college coming back for a bit, it was another place and I did actually vote on.
So did you?
No,
No.
I didn't, but I declared it, I didn't specifically say it, I said I declared it.
Did it impact the decision?
No, it didn't impact the decision 100%, because when it was declared, I didn't even realise what it was about. That's, so I apologise, that's my mistake.
Yeah. Right. I did have a question for my fellow councillors. Would we, on PC, 014/2025, councillors forum under proposed community consultation Holyford Lodge. Are we happy with the wording? Is it sufficient enough to say we did not? It was proposed that the office stand FUPA and do not accept the invitation to meet. Do we? I am minded to say I would like to see the one sentence explanation why, as to meeting as a council would create predetermination. This is what we were talking about, but obviously this is a motion I'm putting forward and I'm asking my fellow councillors if that's how you remember that meeting and if that's something we should add to that minutes. That means if someone agrees with me, someone needs to raise hand and says that they second it. Do I have a seconder for that one sentence?
For the sentence that's printed.
No, so the sentence that's printed just said that we asked the office to send and not to accept the invitation. I'm asking if we would like to add the reason why we did not accept the invitation.
I don't think it's necessary. I think that's perfectly
Okay, it's fine,
Acceptable.
okay. So I can sign this. Do I sign every page? Just,
So I think that's your choice, because some people. The back page, so I think it's.
okay. So now,
Much supervising. I've got a note that says, office to respond, please talk to the developer about their involvement in the application.
yes,
That's the next, that's an action.
Yeah, I know, but that sort of wasn't minuted. That we talked to them about.
yeah, that's what I was asking before, so I was just asking. Information on that, and.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move to. Update action from the meeting on the 12th of April.
Yeah, so the only issue from that was to Bupa as described and explained that thank you for the invitation, but the council would rather
Okay,
take them up.
right. So the next on the agenda is chairman's request and proposals for councillors following later, and I start with councillors Pierce. Do you have anything to go on here? Thank you. Councillor Heaton. Councillor Phillips. Councillor Ford. No? Councillor Ford.
Yeah, I just got one thing is, and it's maybe a clarification. It's just about the notification we receive on license application.
Which we can discuss under councillor's forum. Okay, councillor Wilson.
I was just going to raise
It's exactly the same thing,
Yes.
but it's okay, we can
Yes.
discuss it under. It's fine.
Okay. Yes,
Yeah,
okay.
interesting, actually.
So next on the agenda is clerk report.
Clerk's report, right, okay, so, just a reminder to everybody that the standing order 12B says that there'll be no discussion about the draft minutes of a preceding meeting except in relation to their accuracy. If they're not accurate, then we discuss it and then the motion can be done. Yes, and also at the last meeting, we didn't start by signing the minutes, we got into the actual meeting itself. And now recommends that best practice for governance is to actually approve the minutes because it shows the council must approve the previous minutes before progressing to ensure there's agreement of the past matters. It allows the council to properly follow up on the actions of the unresolved items. So that those minutes are signed off, we then move on to the next meeting. Planning applications, we've been copied into an email relating to a rental property in Bray. The borough and the solicitors are on the case, dealing with the matter, just to make you aware. So, licensing, I've been checking the licenses, checking on licensing is part of the monthly routine for the planning committee meetings. No one has suggested otherwise since I began clerking in September. Councillor Keane was concerned about a change in the licence with George and the group had been missed. I asked RBWM for some assistance and the reply which was given to me and I've already shared with the councillors. Application 051158/LAP LO4 was a minor variation which is subject to a 10 working day consultation period. The variation was submitted to update the current plans. As the licensing was issued before 2006, the plans did not indicate the licensable area. The applicant has now submitted the updated plans, clearly identifying the licensing area, as is required for all premises licenses. Please note that these plans relate specifically to licensing activities, which differ from those of the planning department. Regarding 051158/LAP LO3, this was the transfer of the premises license holder. Transfer applications are not subject to public consultation. They are only consulted on with the police and home office and have a 40-day consultation period. If no objections are received, the transfer is granted automatically. Information can be viewed online. As a courtesy, this was from the officer, we do inform local ward councillors of each public licensing application. It may be worth discussing with councillors whether to establish a process sharing this information with the parish council. So I've suggested that Councillor Walters and Councillor Cross forward any public licence applications they may be aware of to the office, and we can then forward them on to councillors. The music late at night. I have been asked by RBWM officers for the best advice. I have asked RBWM officers for the best advice I can give councillors. Councillors can offer residents in regards to issues with music after hours. They came back with the licensing team and environmental protection are aware of the complaints raised by residents and yourselves. All additional information you provide is helpful. A visit to the premises is planned for this week. The licence holder was contacted last week by the licensing team leader and was notified of concerns and complaints received. I will provide an update once we have more information on the visit to the premises. Parking issues. These items are dealt with by the Land Management Committee, but in summary, as advised by the lead officer at RBWM, the possible actions are enforcement or offence around the green. Enforcement would cost £35 an hour. Just to note, Palace Sport got permission for 20 cars on the land on Wednesday evening on their drive for their event. That's the report for the day.
All right. I am going to add that our standing order 1A, page 1, says that the chairman of the meeting can move items on the agenda as they wish. So I do accept the best practices assignment minutes first, but nothing was broken. Thank you. And now we're moving to the public forum. I know there are members of the public. This is the moment in the meeting where you can speak now, or you can decide to speak after the application was actually presented by a councillor. It's up to you if you'd like to have your 3 minutes now or maybe later.
Later.
Later, right. Can I just ask? No, nothing for the public forum. Nothing. Thank you. Okay, so now we're moving to the planning applications. And the first, as always, will be presented planning applications from Holyport by Councillor Derek Wilson. And we are very lucky because nothing was on the agenda because the application that the residents are interested in is the first one. So.
Good evening all. The first application that we have is an agricultural storage building that's retrospective on Long Lane Farm, Ascot Road. And if we go to the first slide. The application site is here. The Long Lane comes out onto the Ascot Road about there. And many of you have been over the years, we've seen various activities in a junction of this Long Lane Farm, with the junction widened in order to accept much larger vehicles than what is ordinarily much larger than normal farm vehicles. But as this application is dealing with an agricultural barn, and that is by the very definition of agricultural, that is the purpose of the barn. So in greenbelt terms, it's very difficult to make any comment about the type of building when they've described it. So if we move on to the next slide, please, John. This is the actual barn in question. So it's 19,800 from that edge to that edge is the width. And then it's 30,500, the total width of this. So it's quite a large barn. And the unfortunate thing is, under the permitted development rights, because it's agricultural and because it's in the green belt, they can technically build this. But the concern is because of the types of vehicles that are operating, they may well be using it more than just for agricultural use. But we can only determine the application based on this. And so I think it's important that we can allow the resident to raise the issue before I continue any further.
Good evening, everyone. My name is John Bunch, and I live in Scottsdale, right at the entrance of Long Lane Farm. Coming to speak about the application we are discussing now, 25 by 00999. Long Lane Farm stands within green belt, land that means to safeguard our countryside and limit inappropriate development. Yet, over recent years, the site has shifted from its intended agricultural use. We have seen it increasingly taken over by heavy machinery and used for a business involving ATVs, high goods vehicles, and articulated lorries. This is more than just a technicality. It raises profound concerns about safety, rural character, and the basic fairness of a planning system. Let me highlight 4 key areas. First, the history of planning breaches. The planning application 25 by 00999 is not an isolated case, but part of a pattern. The applicant seeks retrospective permission for a barn built without approval, directly tied to enforcement case 22 by 50105, which addresses unauthorized shift from agricultural to plant and machinery storage, offices, and commercial transport activities. Similarly, application 24 by 02996 involved the unlawful widening of the farm at large AGVs captured in enforcement case 23 by 50123. The parish council, the local borough plan, and the local transport plan all highlighted lack of proper access, danger to pedestrians, and harm to the rural setting. Second, ongoing attempts to mislead the council. The landowner has submitted a string of retrospective applications, 23 by 02890, 24 by 02337, 24 by 02355, among others. These applications systematically underplay or obscure the scale of commercial operations and unauthorized works, undermining the trust and transparency of our planning system. Third, every time an unauthorized building is retrospectively approved, we signal the rules can be ignored and enforcement is optional. This does not just weaken trust in our planning process, it threatens our ability to protect the green belt for generations to come. Fourth, risk to the community and the green belt integrity. These unauthorized activities are not just technical breaches, they all have real consequences. Residents report increased noise, traffic, safety hazards. The storing of heavy machinery on the site poses fire and accident risk. Every retrospective application erodes the integrity of the green belt, setting a dangerous precedent for future disregard of planning rules. The community's concerns are clearly recorded in public comments on the RWM planning portal and the public notice portal, including strong objections of the ongoing misinterpretation of the land use and the risks posed to local safety. So my conclusion is the pattern is clear: deliberate disregard for planning protocols, persistent non-compliance, and tangible harm to our countryside and community safety. I urge you to reject the application 25 by 00999, uphold the planning policies, restore public confidence, and protect the green belt for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Alison?
Thank you very much. The issue that we have is that technically a barn can be erected because they've stated that it's for agricultural use and it's on greenbelt land. That definition is allowed. I know what you're saying, sir, and I fully understand what you're saying. The issue is that it is extremely difficult to try and refuse this application because I would suspect what has happened is the the planning enforcement officers have been to the site because you've got clearly an enforcement number in front of you. And that enforcement number means that they have said to the applicant, in order to rectify this building that you've built, you need to submit a planning application, and that's why we're to actually look at this planning application. So we're in a bit of a quandary in as much as, technically speaking, they can erect something that is for agricultural use. The issue is what they may use it in the future, and that's what we don't know. But it could be, as local residents, you may be able to see the level of increased activity. And then if the level of increased activity continues, then you can report it through environmental health and they can take the necessary actions.
Before we open, before we open the floor to discussion, there are two rules in planning. First one, we can only look at the application in front of us. I know there are other applications in that building and around this area, but we can only look at what is in front of us today. And the other comment I would like to make is we can only recommend refusal or approval. We cannot refuse anything in this room ourselves. Right, can I open the floor for discussion, Councillor?
Has there been any building on this site previously, like small barn, in situ? Is this just a bigger version of a previous item?
I don't recall. I cannot answer that because I don't know.
Does the resident know? Sometimes use the specialist in the area. Do you know if there was any buildings before that one?
To my knowledge, no. That same premises, they used to repair the machines, service them, and they used to store all the machines just right in front and inside the barn.
Any other question?
Yes. Is there any maximum size for a barn which is
Well, that is the question. I mean, when we talk about the length, that's 30.5 meters in length and 19.6 meters in width. But the height is just over 6 meters in height.
Not massively.
So it's not a huge barn by some standards, but nevertheless, the problem that we have is in the local plan policy, it does say that barns can be constructed in the green belt on the basis that it is for agricultural use. So the only thing that I would like to suggest is we're in this difficult position. We cannot really refuse it because it will just go to the local planning authority and they will just agree. So I would say that we cannot really refuse this. We should approve it, but we should put something on as a marker to actually say that it must only be used for agricultural use and no other use.
yes.
Yes, because I think the gentleman wishes to.
Just one comment.
Yes, please.
When you're saying agricultural, there are no agricultural activities happening over there. The guy used to have 6 or 7 cows, which I think probably are sold and they probably just slaughter and eat them anyway. So in name of agriculture, there's a token of 6 or 7 cows. And this is not from now. If you even go back retrospective, there have been permits for the same. There are no agricultural activities. It's just purely for machinery business. If you go on the Joint Machinery website, you will see the address of Long Lane Farm Honeypot clearly on the website as well, on the operator's license as well. This everywhere it has been recorded, and it's purely for the machinery business to run over there. There is agricultural activities.
But what I'm saying, sir, is that it's very difficult for us to refuse this as such, because technically speaking, they have described the purpose of the barn. And we can question about what its use is, but if we put a rider in, when we respond back to the local planning authority, and the local planning authorities, the Royal Borough have made of it, and we'll say that we clearly believe that it's not being used for the agricultural purpose it has been built for. And we strongly urge your enforcement team investigate.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a much fairer and also a much tougher way of dealing with this. Because the enforcement team, if they see everything contrary to that, they can take it a step further.
Okay, so sorry, I'm going to stop you. Is there any other councillor who'd like to make any comments?
Yeah.
Yes, please, councillor.
Well, I think we should, although obviously the enforcement team would be aware of this, I think we could add to the fact they've had four, over the last 3 years, they've had 4 enforcement inquiries in this property.
So, any other councillors, any thoughts, questions? Okay, so it's motion to approve with a condition.
With the condition, but it should also be stated, as Stephen has already referred to, the fact that previous applications have already had enforcement action, but we are extremely concerned about the potential use other than agricultural.
Yes. Okay,
Do we need to be more specific about what we believe that used to be?
Well, we could,
Yeah, just simply because you might as well not be coy about it. I mean, if the gentleman is saying it's a use for
Machinery business.
machinery, then I don't know. I mean, it's just,
I mean, we could say that we currently believe that the barn is not being used for agricultural use,
Yes.
but it is being used for more heavy goods, commercial vehicles and machinery.
yes. I think we're just simply really.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay, that's fine.
machines, it's industrial machines.
Yes.
It's not just storage. Okay, so it's being used for
all right,
industrial.
so we have a motion. Reaction, okay, so we're going to vote then. Okay, so for motion,
With that caveat,
yes, it's to approve with the condition and a comment. Please. Okay, that's everyone. Thank you so much for coming. You are welcome to stay or leave as you wish. You can always stay and listen tonight. Thank you so much. So,
Thank you. Just before I leave, just to make you aware, there were 2 families that were living on Long Lane Farm. There was Dr. Sarah Leva and David Hearn. They were harassed and
nice to you because there is a camera that's going to be on the internet. We cannot name any specific
Okay, sorry.
incidents unless you're prepared to the.
yeah, so I'm just saying what I read in the time report.
Yes.
It's legal.
as long as,
Thank you.
okay, our next application is also in Polyport. This is number 6, Family Road in Polyport. And these are the sets of cottages that are on Polyport Green. So if we go to the actual back, and one of those public houses, the George here. There's a road that runs in front of this, and this property is called Family Road. These properties are covered by the conservation area. And now, if I just talk to you a little bit
And what this applicant is trying to do is very similar to what other applicants have done in Hammond Road. So they're not doing anything untoward. Basically, it's a narrow, very long, narrow type building. And they've got an entrance door at the moment that leads into there. And basically they want to put second doors over here. And therefore bringing this area much more into the property. So this will up down and basically a door from there. So it will give them much more space within the actual accommodation. And that is basically it. And the road. And as I said, other properties have equally had the same treatment. And I can understand why the residents would like to do it, because they've just gone to enlarge the living space.
Any questions, comments? No, so is there a proposal to?
Move to approve that change.
Thank you very much for approval. Let's get put it to second. Anything wrong with recommending for approval? That's everyone. Thank you. Thank you. We are now moving out of 44 and go to Bray. We Councillor Wilson.
Yes, they, no disrespect to anyone else, it's just simply that Ken was going to be away, so he just asked me whether I was kindly handle some of his applications. So, this is 48 Cars Way in Maidstone. This is a garage conversion, a single story side front extension, single story rear extension and alterations to fenestration following demolition of existing conservatory. Now, 48 Cars Way, I'm sure we've seen before, but when I did look up the planning portal, it didn't give me the same history. But I'm almost certain I've been to see this property years ago about it. Okay, basically this is Prize Way, this is the property here.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
And so as you come in off the Windsor Road, you would come down here, go turn right and then follow the road round. Now, in some cases, other properties in Carsway have also had similar treatment. But I'll just basically explain. At the moment, this is the existing front elevation with a garage. And there's a porch that comes out. And this is the conservatory that is attached to the rear of the property. The new elevations show the garage is now bricked up with a window. And the rear, there is a more restructured rear renovation rather than a greenhouse, rather than a conservatory to the front. The provision that you've got to think about is there adequate car parking? Yes, but you're actually effectively removing, because you're bricking up the garage, you're actually removing one car parking space. But as this isn't the first time it's happened on the estate, it certainly won't be the last. So on here, the proposing, it looks like they're creating an additional bedroom, and this could be a bedroom for a member of their family, and that's why it's on the ground floor rather than anywhere else. And the actual rear elevation is making better use. It comes out slightly wider than the current conservatory, and it has bifold doors, and they're enlarging the kitchen area as a result. It's a flat roof at the rear. I don't think there's much more that I can say. So, any questions, really?
Letters from neighbours.
Yeah, this one. Yeah, I think this one, it was obviously the son of the neighbours.
Yes,
And they were really worried about light and,
No.
other things, but actually I don't think it's. And they were worried about damaging their property while the building was going. But I don't think, I don't think the footprint really changes, nor does
No.
the elevation. So I don't think, so I think they can be reassured that it won't. really make
That
any
is
significant-
objection.
Well, it won't have the effects they're worried about.
and so basically the noise and light levels. With regards to the light, it shouldn't cause too much of a problem because it's a single story rear extension, it's not going to the first floor level. The noise, well, obviously any development causes a little bit of noise whilst it's being done. But hopefully that will be done as quickly as possible. That's really all I can say. It's not. So, and you don't need a partial rule agreement. It's not attached. No,
That's the.
it's a detached property.
And it's just not. Obviously they're going from a conservatory with a pitch with going to a flat. There's no issue on that, is there? It's not.
That's usually, it's reduction, so
Reductions,
that's
it's fine.
like it's
Yeah, thank you.
also there, I think there are no rules on construction noise, that there's actually, it's not a valid reason to.
No, that's right.
That's the thing.
Would we wish to suggest that permitted development rights should take effect?
Yes, I mean, that could certainly be, removal of permitted development rights means that it doesn't actually stop them from putting in an application next time round. It just means that on a small scale extension, they would then not automatically receive permission. They have to apply for planning consent. So we could remove the permitted development rights on the basis that we support this particular application. If everyone is agreeable,
Any other comments, questions? No. So we have a motion on the table, it's to approve with condition,
with the condition to remove the permitted development rights.
Okay, so there is a motion to recommend for approval with the condition. Do I have anyone who would like to second? Councillor Pearce, and everyone recommending for approval with the conditions. That's everyone. Okay.
Right, the next one is the terrace in Bray. This is a removal of the existing chimney that's already been removed. As we can see, it's retrospective. So I don't know whether you found that, and then just decided what to be done. Again, because of it being in a conservation area, hence the application. Now, this is the terrace, this is Bray Village Hall here, this is the car park. So you can see it's in the parade of terrace properties that run along here. I mean, there's not much really to be said about this. I mean, it had a chimney, there's no chimney there now. The photographs clearly show that they've retiled the roof where the chimney once stood. So that's all I have to say, unless anyone else has any questions.
We could refuse it and let them.
Put it back up. Unfortunately, it has happened elsewhere, but at least the applicant has been honest enough to actually apply
Yes.
for planning
Yes, I was
consent.
in
No, but some have not, and some have just removed it. And I think this is why the planning officers or whatever may have asked for an application to be submitted.
So is it a sort of an enforcement or is it just along the side?
And there is a design access statement. It says there are no records of any planning application can be submitted for development at under 8. Number 1 and 2, the terrace has also had their chimneys removed. Those could have been removed in the late 1980s or early 1990s when the properties were undergoing various conversions. It doesn't actually say.
So can I have two more? This is obviously conservation area. Is it great? Is it listed or is it is it on any list of any assets of the village?
Actually, the workers' cottages, Victorian workers, workmen's cottages.
But are
I
there?
have a feeling the others on the terrace which then have chimneys as well.
Well, I mean, it says, the property is located within the Bray Parish conservation area. And the conservation area is a heritage asset. And paragraph 207 of the National Planning Policy Framework refers to in determining the applications, local planning authorities should require an applicant to describe the significance of any heritage assets affected, including any contribution made by their setting. The level of detail should be proportionate to the asset importance and no more than is sufficient to understand the potential impact of the proposal on their significance. So the very fact that other properties have had their chimneys removed, and this one has actually, whether they've been asked to submit a planning application or whatever, but they've done it nevertheless. And there is a statement on their file to show that they are doing it. I don't think there's much more that we can say or do. And it must have been as a result of some works done internally.
Okay, so do we have any comments, questions from councillors?
No.
No? So there is a motion.
Well, the motion is to approve on the basis that it's not creating a precedence because there's already chimneys that have been taken down. And, you know, it would be very difficult to say anything to the contrary.
I'd like to say that actually, I mean, one of the problems with chimneys of that age is that you get issues with damp from them, you get issues with loose mortar from them. And I doubt if any of those, and hardly any properties need a chimney now unless they've got gas. So, you know, and I can't see that there's any aesthetic loss.
Okay, so would anyone? So everyone recommending that for approval. I'm going to extend.
Okay.
Because I can't do some things that are good. So they should
Well, I know, but I mean, you know, I know.
No, it's abstention, not against it.
Yes,
It's just
yes. Okay.
a shame. I think it's a clear. Okay. And you have councillor Glover, is anything?
Okay, we have two applications tonight. The first one is 5011092. We've seen Tarvey Wood House before, but this, funny enough, is for their barn and it's part retrospective. Obviously, everyone knows Tarvey. This property is actually at the beginning of Tarvey, the lower end. And this wasn't a house until 2004. when they actually managed to get planning for a mobile home to be replaced with a bungalow. Unfortunately, I have looked and there is nothing in the planning for the barn. And obviously this is the barn. So either it's gone up a long time ago, but it's old. They want to convert it to a gym. So what they want to do is the barn that is here. They are leaving this section as old, which is a lower step down part of the barn. And they want to rebuild this part. This is what they want to play with. So the whole point is the blueprint of the rebuild is exactly the same as the old. There is a small section at the side and they want to put barn. My only concern is we've got no measurements, but it's been there for a long time, so there's no objections from the neighbours. My only concern is that they're trying to increase the roof, the ridge. They're doing it by about 15 inches, so but not major if it's a standard barn. If it's a standard 10 to 12 foot, 13 foot, it's not really going to make much of a difference. If it's 15 foot, it's now going to make it 16. But the fact is that the blueprint is not changing. Again, they're asking to change it to a gym. I thought we might get a complaint because they're putting an air conditioning unit. So I did think one of the neighbours was actually going to complain maybe for the noise because they're not the quietest of bits, but not low. And they do have opinions if they don't like it. They're the first ones to jump up. So unfortunately, limited sizes. As I say, it's been there for pre-1994 it was built. But they're really fun, so it's fine. It's just a standard line. Roof, foot. I'm not sure we can. They're gonna even bother about it, but
Does it have water and electricity as these buildings get bigger? I always wonder whether they're going to be up with the
it's definitely got power.
project.
They've got obviously considerable power there. It's not any bigger than what the original was.
It's usually run water.
It's staying on the blueprint. It's not changing whatsoever. The only thing it's doing is going just over a foot taller. If it was going to be annoying to the neighbours, I think they would be jumping up and down because Tarbay is very, very particular in this.
I mean, but my only observation, I was alluding to this, it's just this is a gradual creation of the dwellings.
Personally, because they got their
Because they're the
They got
mobile
mobile home converted.
converted.
obviously in 2004, I would be tempted to put, obviously that it has to stay with the dwelling, it cannot be converted to a dwelling, it has to stay as an ancillary bar. But we can't stop them using it as a gym.
And there's no way that we can certainly suggest that it is an enormously tall building.
It's, as I say, it's 15 inches, so if they were going sort of a good metre, then I might start jumping up and down, but unfortunately, 15 inches is not going to go mad. And I don't remember, I've been up and down Tarbay so many times, there is no extremely tall buildings down there, apart from the Dutch barn right at the very end.
Any other questions, comments from the councillors? So there is a motion to recommend the
I would obviously ask for it to be approved, but I would like to put a condition that obviously we tie it to the dwelling and it cannot be separated.
would anyone like to speak against that? That's the listen. Everyone recommending for approval with a condition. That's everything.
Why not? Next one we have is, Oakley Green Lodge, Oakley Green Road. Anyone that knows Oakley Green Road, this is John Train. And this is obviously Oakley Green Lodge, and it's got an acquired entrance, so I don't know if you actually when you go past. You will actually see there's 3 properties, but they all have the same entrance, so you have Tanglewood to your right. And we've obviously, we've got the coach house and then Oakley Green Lodge goes to the middle. What they've asked to do is they want to add a single story extension onto this property. This is obviously how we are now, and they want to put in a bedroom, ensuite and snug. So it is single story. Can I have the next one, please? So this is what they want to do, is add this to the side. The property is large, it's in a large plot. It's not overlooking either of the other properties. Both properties don't have an issue with it. And it is single. So really, I'll be more upset if it's starting to actually ask for a double extension, well then we are going obviously by a third. At the moment, this is single. It's
Parking there, it's not a huge.
it's huge. It's the biggest plot of all 3. Tanglewood, obviously the Corn Cottage is literally there on this side, and this one is directly. It's got loads of frontage, it's got loads at the back. Really, this sort of quite disappeared. Unfortunately, I have no dimensions on this application, and there's nothing on the website. I tried to get it, obviously it is full length of the house, but it is going to increase the footprint roughly by about 20%, but it is single. But I can only be approximate.
It's often where garage is too.
Now, if it wasn't a garage, it's, they actually have to the side, there is a separate double garage to the side.
Okay.
This is just an addition. I mean, the way they do it, it looks like it's going to be for a other person, maybe a parent, in-law, or who knows, but they are doing it.
Councillor Ferguson.
Oh, just again, the squiggly bands. What's that squiggly red line? Is that the edge of the plot?
That's their boundary line on that one on the side.
There's no actual building right up to the edge of the boundary.
Yeah, but that obviously the next property is right over. So it is their boundary, it is the fence line, but there is nothing on the other side of it.
And so there's not going to be any issues about them constructing this because they might have to get access to that.
No, as much as I would like to find something, just apart from the fact that the sizes. So you could throw it back and say, you know, we would like more information, we would like the sizes, but I kind of feel it will actually go without.
Okay, any more questions? Thoughts? No.
Can you
So
go back to the floor plan? Because I think the floor plan says what they're intending to use it for, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a bedroom and a ensuite and snug. So it sounds like it's full.
Okay, so there is a motion to
Approved, but again, we'll take the permitted development rights away.
with a condition, yeah, we give them conditions today, yeah. Would anyone like to second? Councillor Hughes? And everyone recommending that for approval with a condition to remove permitted development. Everyone. Amazing. Thank you so much. I can't believe I'm saying this, but we have finished planning. So as you can see, there are no certificates of lawfulness today. The trees, as always, go to the proper officer in the borough. unless someone wants to comment something specific there. Planning decisions, notifications and decisions on appeals are circulated on SharePoint. Does anyone want to comment or anything? Report on enforcement matters within the parish, again circulated on SharePoint. Nothing, okay. Licensing applications. Circulated, I'm happy to open the conversation now or wait for councillors' forum. On Roman, update on application for Rule 6 on studio appeal and inquiry. I've got an just to say if anyone, I mean, we all know that, but it's still, the decision is still not reached. It is now moved until the end of June, and our planning consultant suggested we cannot respond any further than what we've already said as a council. And there was a comment not to speculate about what the result would be as councillors. Okay, payment list. Have everyone seen the payment list? Any questions? No? Would, so we have to vote on payment list. So all those for the payment list accepted. Okay, all those against? 2 abstentions? 2 abstentions. Are the payments signed?
Yeah.
Did everyone have a chance to have a look if they wish to?
For the wish.
Yeah,
Well, I had a look, but not decided.
yeah, I'm just making sure. There's no one- The payments list. Okay, so councillors forum, and we have first councillor Parkinson.
Well, a lot of my queries were just clarifying exactly how many information as we get to license applications. John did make it clear. It really was all out my concern about what's happening in the German room. Not because basically he's doing something that is illegal in terms of his things he's applied for, but what's happening, let us say, after this, which has been confirmed recently by an unsort of thought about Facebook post. Because we look after very rural areas which have village pubs, and because the village pubs are, like all the hospitality industry, under huge pressure, there is a tendency, I do think, for people who take them over to put limits of their business, to extend what they want to do and to use more and more outside space. I just think that we need to be more cognizant of what's going on in our pubs around here, because I just feel that people, and particularly the person who is an example of thing, he's a very good landlord from a business point of view, but he pushes the envelope always. And I just feel that it's one area that we perhaps, as parish councillors, and probably from personal experience of using many of the pubs, we probably have some very good direct knowledge about it and might be able to inform the licensing people at RBWM with full knowledge, not to be deliberately obstructive, but to keep an eye on exactly what is happening and to be proactive and not necessarily reactive. I suppose what I'm trying to say is, how do we get access to licensing applications in good time that we can, as Bray Parish councillors, comment upon them effectively?
I'm happy to. Would you like to comment on that?
Well, as I know you said that, John. What I said, was that from a licensee point of view, then it's down the law. It's not down to the parish. Yeah. From the application point of view, in terms of the licensed area, that was the anomaly with that case, was the area which was obviously not declared before 2006. They didn't get around to doing that, but they mapped it out. They put their application in, that ticks the box. So from that point of view, it then comes down to monitoring what's going on and residents putting in complaints, so that then the licensing people can go out and investigate, which is what they're doing now. So we need to wait for them to come back to report back, and it is about Well, I've asked the officers what's the best advice I can give to you guys to give to residents. And I'll just wait, I think, wait for that information to come through.
It's just that, I suppose from my perspective, and it might well be, look at an example, because I started Linux. But I know my fellow local councillors weren't necessarily, were taken a little bit by surprise by the way that the George and the Green suddenly went from being a small pub to having this outside hospitality operation with live music. And my concern is that, you know, given that we live in an area where there is the Henley Festival, there is Ascot, he's a very savvy man, and I just feel that that is going to open up a huge amount of issues in terms of when those festivals are on. And again, it would be one of those things where it would have been good if we could have fed into it our concerns as parish councillors, because I think the problem is, sorry, John, the problem is, John, is that most people, generally speaking, living opposite a pub are not necessarily going to complain too much because they're happy with the pub's open. Because there's nothing worse than having a pub closed down. That's even worse. I just think that, you know, from my perspective, if I had known about the application, not that I'm saying that what I would have said as a parish councillor would have had much heft, I certainly would have made some serious observations about the sense of giving that to a person who is known to push the envelope. And also, you give him the fact as well that he has other businesses which have contravened licensing laws in the past, which I know you can't get into. I mean, so that I mean, I suppose it's not really a principle. It just, from my perspective, I wonder how I would be able to keep an eye on it.
So I think the problem you find is that you end up with one landlord at the pub for a long time.
Yeah.
And neighbours, residents are happy the way they operate. The same happens with the Firefoot.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
Gary had an operator for years. All the locals would go there, no problem at all. It failed after they left. So of course now these guys that have gone in pushing it, but everyone they're bringing in brings a car. Too sure quite how, but there you go. They all bring a car. So now you can't get through the village because they're parking. You try and come in, and I even struggle to park on the drive. You know, it's that you have to, in one hand, or saying they're running a business, they're doing well, they're using their initiative in a very hard time, a very hard climate, and they're making it work. But obviously, on the other hand, it upsets residents because they're used to the way it was, not the way it is. And of course, obviously with the George, with who's taken it, it kind of will push to the extremes before things may change, move, or erupt, should I say?
Yeah.
So I guess the conversation is about how can we know in time to comment on that licensing application. And my understanding of it is that the timescale for licenses are usually like 10 days. It's so checking them once a month is by default not enough. Would we like to ask the office to check weekly? Would we also like to ask our borough councillors to forward their licensing application as soon as they get them by default? And then maybe share with the ward councillors and, yes, please, Councillor Wilson and then Councillor.
Just to say that I think it would be a good idea for the borough councillors because they equally get a list of licence applications. And so they know exactly what's going on in the Bray Parish area. So it would seem perfectly reasonable for them to notify the office that if they have a concern about an application, to advise the office is then alerted to it and can either send a communication out to the ward members asking for any comment.
So, okay, that would.
My other comment to this is obviously with the licensing is you're going to pick up, they're going to do a change. What it's not going to do is obviously stop them doing things that they shouldn't.
No.
Which obviously is going to have nothing to do with the RWM, and that's going to be obviously foot soldiers and village, and obviously trying to get maybe like a webpage of where people actually reporting what's going on. And then feeding it back to the licensing office.
So would you suggest, that we have something on the website? I don't know.
You need, the problem is, you're only gonna get licensing come through when they have a change of manager, premises license, that's it. The pub then operates, they do whatever they want, they don't need a license to change unless they want to change their hours or they want to add something else in. So it's a very, very minute little piece of what they can do is going to go through RBWM. It's the opposite way. It's more like the residents need to then filter it upwards, but then it's got to be done sensibly. You're not going to have, Joe Blow says, obviously some person urinated in the car park. Do you know what I mean? You've got to have a sensible dialogue going and feeding it back to RBWM, because otherwise they won't bother. The licensee's office will not take any interest whatsoever unless they're getting a feed, and then they're, oh, okay, maybe we should start looking at this. So it's a bit of a two-way street, and it's more our way than their way.
That's the first thing.
Point that John made, and obviously you made as well, about the idea of having foot soldiers, having essentially for enforcement issues, people like, I mean, would it be worth possibly making that clear to the residents that is the best way to do it? Because, you know, I mean, you know, times, I mean, there was a very similar situation that happened in Bray. I mean, when the Crown decided that they wanted to have an outside venue, an outside tent, again, that caused huge issues. And I don't think necessarily that people quite knew what to do. So I don't know whether it's maybe some communication out to people in the parish saying, look, if there is issues with licensing, you need to go to this as opposed to maybe speaking to us, because there is a limit to what we suppose we can do.
Yes.
Outside of this room, really. Speak to someone else say, well, what are you doing?
Sure. Yeah, it's something we could address in the newsletter.
Yeah.
So just put it's made out what is the best way to do this.
Yeah, I think it's just if people, because sometimes I think people think automatically, oh, it's the Bray Parish councillor. Well, often it is the best route is then directly to actually do it as a go in there, as a resident, go straight to them.
So, sorry, it's, so do I understand correctly? We'll have a piece in the newsletter and we'll try to inform residents of the correct process. We will ask our borough councillors to share anything they feel is worth sharing with us, through the office, and then also
Perfect, well, they should share everything. If they get anything through about licensing, send it to the office. We then send it to all councillors, and then
a chairman of the committee that deals with
they
it. So it would be ward councillors and
ward councillors get the
chairman of the committee.
no, the ward councillor gets the information about Bray. So
No, I mean parish ward councillor. So our two borough councillors send anything
to
back
the office.
to the office and then also sends it to the top. Okay,
To the office.
that's it.
I know.
Yeah, that will solve it. Any other suggestions? No. I think there's a problem. Communication is a problem, basically, so, you know.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, and then councillor Julianne Blower, councillor Bond. Oh, well,
It's our Conisby Farm. Obviously, as we all know, Conisby Farm's been going on for God knows how long. So we have a section that actually is this end, if you remember, it's Long Acres Farm that bought it. And we've got the four barns. One of the residents from Highfield, she walks her dog every day. She's very friendly with Trish as well. And then obviously sent to the office this week and copied me in that one of the barns has had planning permission passed for 2-bedroom houses, which are just mortified. I mean, they've only been up for a year, so I don't know how they've managed to get it. They have. Now we've got a mobile home that's appeared. So I've asked her to raise it with the enforcement. I've asked at the office if we can raise it with the enforcement, and we have it on the list, just keep a note. We've got 4 huge barns that have been built on there, and I can see all of them being converted, which is what they wanted in the first place. And with a walk-in wardrobe, do not forget. So the mobile home, I mean, they might innocently turn around and say it's for the workers while they're converting the barn, but at the end of the day, it's just another static living space that's there. And it really is not the best of land for building because it's going to cost a lot of money. But obviously, I would just like to make us all aware that it's sort of kicking. This is our guys down there, so we've got the same owners. This was going to be the butchery where they were going to actually hold the meat, sell it. So if we could add it to our enforcement, and if we could just obviously raise it with the enforcement. I know Sarah Bryce and Trish is going to raise it with the enforcement as well. And see what happens. Right. Thank you. That's.
I'm a councillor Forum because no councillor from Holyford decided to say that this Saturday.
Okay, right, yes.
8 years. We did a couple of years ago, and the spouse happened 8 years ago, and that's not a coincidence. So if anyone has any idea, no idea what to do this Saturday, I would suggest.
I am
You're helping out.
Yeah.
I've heard that our MG is coming, and it's going to be very happy of joining. So, yes, so I'm just going to make a point that it's really worth going there, probably this weekend. Right, date of the next planning meeting, according to our formula. July 3rd. Unless someone protests, we're just going to decide that this is the next planning meeting. So July 7th is the next planning meeting. This meeting is now closed. Thank you so much, Betsy. What about it? What about it?
That's the result.
Can I just say, sorry to put the spotlight on you, but it's Dan. She's putting herself forward to be co-opted onto the council. So if you've not had a quick word with her, just have 2 minutes and have a natter and say hello.
And we're going to expect that. I've already figured that.
It is 10. It is 10. It was 10.
Yes, 10. Yes, I'll be there at 10 then. I'm excited now. I wasn't sure.
We'll get it back.
Really?
What's that?
That's